Well, if you need a sign that you're in the right spot, here's a sign. And here's one more sign, just so you know for sure. So we've got our signs now. So be comfortable. If you haven't gotten your slip, that's okay. We'll do that later. We will do our drawing at the end just for fun. I love giving gift bags, so this is a perfect opportunity to do that. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is one of my favorite topics, and I just love sharing this information. And hopefully I will do a thorough job so that by the end of the night you will know for sure what your dominant psychic sense is and your secondary sense. And you'll know why that's important and things that you can do with that, people and how they use them, maybe some health-oriented tips along those lines. And just thank you for being here, because I know there's a lot of other things going on, so I really appreciate it. My name is SK Cothren, and I guess we'll just start with an overview. Let's put our curiosity glasses on, and we're going to learn all of our psychic senses. You were born with all of them, and we just aren't really encouraged, and I certainly wasn't. I didn't know I had these abilities, but I didn't know they were psychic for most of my life. So you're never too late to learn something new. So about 10 years ago, and I'm getting ahead of myself. About 10 years ago, I learned for sure that these are psychic abilities, and I wanted to really embrace them, and that changed my life. And it's been a lot more fun ever since. And I came out as a psychic, and then I added my mediumship to it. So these are skills that you can add to your psychic abilities, and anyone can be a medium if you choose to do that. So the more you learn about yourself in this psychic area, these are super senses. I like to call them super senses, but they're psychic senses as well. They are parts of your intuition, and you're born with them. So there's no reason to be afraid of them, even though a lot of people are afraid of that word psychic because of movies and things that make it look crazy to be a psychic. But the truth is we're all psychic, and it's awesome. And it adds like all the colors. I mean, if we were only given black and white, we'd be missing so much. So now we can have even more colors the more psychic you realize that you are. So I may use the term psychic and super senses interchangeably. It's also known as ESP, extrasensory perception. So you might have heard it called that. So it's got lots of different names. Whatever you're comfortable calling it is fine. I'm going to go over why it's a good idea to know your dominant psychic sense. So it's just like, think about the fact that you are probably right-handed or left-handed. You kind of lean one toward the other. Well, out of all of the psychic senses, you're going to kind of gravitate toward one more naturally. And you might be using that sense and your secondary sense all the time, every day. And sometimes if we don't know that, like me, I didn't understand what that was, so I didn't know how to help myself. And so I used to do things like blow up light bulbs and stop watches and stop my digital devices and not understand why they were freezing up. And sometimes it still happens. I don't blow up light bulbs anymore, but maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you have some of those things happen on a regular basis, and there's a reason why. I will be going over some of those things. But knowing that you have this ability, then it helps you just go, okay, I know what's going on. I don't have to be afraid. Just need to slow down. Most of the time it's slowing down. That's one of the biggest keys. I'm going to give you examples of who typically uses your psychic senses. With lots of times people don't realize that's what they're doing, but they're just naturally leaning into their psychic senses. And so we're going to go over some of those things. We're going to do some exercises for you to practice and see which one resonates with you the most. So I'm going to need your help because I'm used to being an interactive teacher where I have people raise their hands and do different things, but the way I've been asked, and so it's a little challenge for me to ask questions and then just let you write the answers down, and then we'll go over questions and answers at the end. So I'll be asking questions, but I'll have to wait to hear your answer until the end. So please help me with that. We are here together today for a reason. You were in the right place, it's the right time, and it's going to be fun. So this is some of my artwork, and I guess just a little bit of background about me. I was born an old soul empath, and so some of you may relate to that. No one told me I was an empath necessarily, but I was always called an old soul. And I was born to a very serious family. So that's why one of the super senses we're going to talk about tonight is one that I've had to really develop on my own. And I plan to keep getting younger as the years go by. So I was born that old soul empath, but also clairvoyant. And I didn't realize that. And the way I just naturally expressed that was through my paintings. And the minute I started painting, I had found my home. I absolutely knew this is what I needed to be doing in my life. And that wasn't until I was about 22, I think. And I picked up a paintbrush for the first time. I had a great big canvas, and it just fell into it. It just felt like I had been there before, and everything fell into place. So I did that for many years. That's how I expressed my clairvoyance and a lot of my emotional overload, I guess you would call it. And so this is an example of one of my larger paintings, and this one is a 4 foot by 5 foot painting. And now I do sculptures and put them out in the yard because it's just so much fun. And my neighbors help me put them out there. So that one in the corner is another huge sign that I did out in my outdoor studio. And then the picture down below is some of the cards that I'm drawn to and the cards that I use in my readings. When you come for a reading, I use crystals and a variety of cards. Once you start collecting tarot and oracle cards, you just keep going because it's so much fun. So that's an example of what I do. So I talked about this a little bit. My early years were traumatic in a lot of ways. I grew up in a cult. My parents raised me in a cult, and I couldn't wait to leave, but I couldn't do that until I was about 19. And so the way I did that was, well, part of it was I just didn't feel any of it was spiritual. It didn't resonate with me. It was all forced. It was not in alignment with my soul. And so the way I did that was I decided to take a bike trip. And I rode my bike all over New England by myself. And that was my vision quest. And at that time, after I got done with that trip, which was 3 months of riding, I knew that I had to leave that church as fast as possible. And then I moved to Colorado, and I moved to Korea, just got as far away from my family of origin as I could. So that's when I started really figuring out who I was and what my feelings were about things, because as an empath, what happens so often is we lose ourselves into other people's emotions because we're just picking up everybody else's emotions and information, and it's hard to know what's yours and what's theirs. And I didn't know that it's taken me most of my life to figure that out because I didn't have a lot of help that way until, well, let's see, I think I'm getting ahead of myself again. I taught for 10 years. I got a master's in education in Colorado and taught for 10 years, mostly middle school kids. I absolutely love the kids, but after 10 years, I burned out, completely burned out, bottomed out, fried out, just burned out my adrenals. Sympathetic, what is it called? Sympathetic fatigue. And so there's no like real diagnosis for it other than just burnout. And I knew I was dying, so I came back to Oregon to say goodbye to my family and try to bridge that gap before I passed. And I did. I went to the other side and came back, and within a couple of weeks it happened again. And I had been trying to be prepared for that, you know, be as peaceful about it as I could. I had lived the life that I wanted to live, and I had done a lot of the things that I wanted to do. So I really tried to reach that point of peace to let go. And I let go, and then I came back. So that was really hard. I think the hardest part was coming back and trying to figure out how to live again and completely transform my life. I mean, completely become a different person. And that's when I realized that passing over opened me up to spirits. And that was amazing. It was not scary at all. I just wanted to learn more. Like, how do I communicate with these spirits? I can smell them. I can hear them. I can see them doing things, but I mean, I couldn't see like full spirits, but I could see them moving things, or I thought I could see them moving things. But I think sometimes I'm a poltergeist. So I don't know if you've heard about that, but if you have a lot of extra energy, you can move things around just with your energy without being aware. So I don't know if it was them or me moving stuff around. But anyway, it really opened me up into a whole new framework and changed me. I had to slow down completely. I had to really reassess what I wanted in life, because I only had so much energy at that point. I mean, I had such little energy at that point. And I've regained a lot of energy, but I still love knowing what I really want to spend my time doing and what I want to spend my energy doing. And I'm very conscious of making those decisions. So that's how I came to figure out that I wanted to speak to spirits. And so I took a mediumship course and learned how to do it. So that's just part of how I got here. Oh, if you don't know your psychic senses, sometimes it can be very confusing because your perspective on things is different than other people's. And you're like, well, don't people see this the way I do? I mean, don't you hear that? Or don't you feel that? Or, you know, it's really confusing when you don't know what is going on. And it's just, you know, it's part of embracing yourself the way you are. And that's what we're here to do tonight. So I think the biggest thing is helping people not burn out. I would love to be able to help do that. So if people feel burnout or they're on the verge of burnout, that is one of my gifts that I can help with. Transitions of any kind, grief. You know, I had to grieve my old life, you know, losing that life that I had lived, and now building a new one, you know. So it's been 10 years, 11 years now. And so it's been, you know, quite a process of transformation. And I still have grief about who that person was and what she didn't know, and, you know, dealing with that. So it's definitely something I recognize in other people. We have a lot of grief that's not always tied to someone who's died. Sometimes we lose ourselves, and finding ourselves again is work, and it's very valuable. and I recommend it, and it's so important. So you're all here for a reason, and I'm still here for a reason. And you know, that's what this is all about, is coming together and helping each other out, sharing information and supporting each other. I do know how to trust myself now. I didn't know how to trust myself back then. I didn't know, I was still learning what my emotions were and what I really thought about something, because I had spent my early years being brainwashed and being expected to think a certain way. And if you didn't think that way, you were going to hell and you were going to die in this horrible way. And I just didn't believe that. And I still don't. In fact, I don't even more now. I know that's not true. So I guess a big thing that I love to do is just helping people through giving readings, really tapping into your energy, seeing where you are. I have no judgment at all, because the things that are amazing about each person I get to connect with, and I don't get to do that otherwise. You know, we don't have really deep, meaningful connections a lot of times, and I get to do that on a pretty short period of time, because I just get to tap into your energy, and my spirit guides and your spirit guides come together and really aid you in coming up with the answers, because your soul already knows the answers. Your soul already knows what's important for you and what's the right thing for you. And so it's just bringing that to the surface and saying, let's start here, let's build with our strengths. So tonight, this is what this is all about, is really recognizing your strengths, and then, you know, we can go forward with that, and you can have all kinds of fun with it. It's really cool. So meet the clairs. There are 7 clairs, and these are known as the super senses or psychic senses. And I'm going to go through each one with lots of details, but on your little piece of paper, if you already have it with you, you know, just kind of look over this list and see which one resonates with you and which one you think might be your dominant sense, because you might already know. So just take a minute and look at that. And I put the little emoticons there to kind of give you some. This is an octopus, just in case you can't tell what it is. And this is a bat. So one of the things that is really cool, I want you to think about this. You don't speak the language of babies, and you don't speak the language of animals, but you know what they need, right? So you're communicating with babies and animals without speaking the same language all the time. And that's what your psychic senses do. They give you all this information so you can communicate. Well, one of the things that I got to do when I lived in Korea was I don't do well learning languages, and I just stopped putting that pressure on myself and used my clairs instead. So I got to have all these meaningful connections with people all over South Korea without speaking, except 감사합니다, which is thank you. So, what was that?
Chamaneo.
Oh, chamaneo. What? I don't even remember. What's 감사합니다? Is it thank you? Thank you. Yes. Okay. See, it's been many years. Yeah, and I struggled learning any Korean, but I loved being there. I loved meeting all the people that I met, and we just used our clairs, and that's how we communicated. And we played tic-tac-toe on the beach, and we, did all kinds of hair things, and I mean, I just had awesome experiences there, and I loved it. So you can use your clairs in any country that you want to visit, and you'll get along just fine.
SK, this cuts also is below that
Oh.
clear humor.
Oh no, it's not on there yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very smart. Let's see, where was I? So you may not have X-ray vision, but you can see through things. And a lot of us read between the lines, and that's kind of like having X-ray vision. You know, you can see through people. So by developing these, you are going to develop a human lie detector. Most of you can pick up on when people are lying, and you do that through your clairs. And if you really tap into it, you'll know even more. So you just have this human lie detector all the time, and you know when someone's being genuine, you know when they're not. It's just awesome. One of the things that you can do with this information is actually tune in to children, help children, you know, not like my experience where it was shut down. You can help children actually embrace their clairs, their psychic senses, and they will never shut them down. They'll just keep growing and expanding them. So the more we understand them and use them, it's a great opportunity to share that with children. And I hope that you will. So one of the reasons why you want to use your super senses is to understand when overwhelm is happening and why it's happening. So for example, let's say one of the things that I struggled with for years, I'm doing better with it now, but I used to walk into Walmart and my eyes would just go half-mast and I would just lose my energy. And I couldn't figure out why it was. And a big part of it was the fluorescent lights really bothered me. And there was just, I don't know, it's just the way it's designed. It's overwhelming if you're a clairvoyant. There's so much information. And so that's something that you may experience. Certain stores just make you, or certain buildings make you lose energy. You just feel drained and you don't know why. So using, you know, recognizing which super sense you have helps you actually go, okay, I know why I'm having this. And that place isn't good for me, or I need to wear earphones or, you know, sunglasses in this building. Whatever it is, you can make those accommodations for yourself. You can avoid migraines.
That was a clairvoyance you were just saying.
I'm going to go more into it.
With the light.
Clairvoyance, yes. It can also be clairsentience. So if you're getting too much information energetically, it could be clairsentience. But yes, I think I said clairvoyance because I think that's a big one for that particular scenario. If you have migraines on a regular basis, you can maybe avoid some of those by knowing your super sense. You can also avoid some fatigue, anxiety, and eye strain, things like that, just by being aware of your super senses, because you might be being flooded with information. And overall, you can just enjoy and have more fun in life using your super senses. So my question is, and you don't have to answer because we'll do this at the end, but have you ever gone into a building and tested it? Let's say you were going for a job interview and you went into that building to test it and see, would I want to work here? You know, you just go in there and you feel it the minute you walk in the door, like, ooh, no, I can't, no way. And you don't even have to explain it to yourself, you just know you couldn't work there. Or, because I used to go on job interviews and I would actually ask them to take me to the room, because when I was teaching, I would ask them to take me to the room I would be teaching in. And I would go into that room and just see if I could see myself and feel myself teaching there. Because you spend so much time in that room, you know, by yourself with hundreds of kids. So I needed to know if I was going to be comfortable there and if I could make it my own. So some of you may just naturally do that. You know, that I would say that's clairsentience. You just walk into a building and you know if you feel comfortable there or not. And so some of those buildings you don't frequent those stores or frequent that building because it doesn't make you feel good. And it's important to pay attention to that, because if you spend time there, you could be drained of your energy just because the energetic frequency isn't good for you. It doesn't mean it's not good for somebody else, but it's not good for you. So being, really heeding that. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one and go through each. Officially now I'm going to start with the first one. So clairvoyance is clear seeing. So clair is the French word for clear. So it's just clear seeing. So imagine that you have an eagle eye in the center of your forehead. And that eagle eye can see much bigger picture than your two eyes can see. And you can see through camouflage. You can actually just see right through things. It's really an amazing thing. That's your third eye. If you have clairvoyance as your dominant sense, you say, I see a lot, just naturally. I see. Or I saw this, or you're just constantly saying, I see. You may see visual scenes, symbols, colors, and words that give you clues. You read between the lines. Mine is like a blackboard inside my forehead, and I've always described it that way. Like, it's a blackboard, and I can see words in there, and I can see images, and I can see symbols, and it's almost like they're just drawn inside my forehead. And that's clairvoyance. You probably had really vivid dreams if you're clairvoyant. They're just like technicolor. Just tons of color and tons of visual things going on. You may enjoy drawing, painting, writing to express your visions. And I say visions, just they appear. And I don't know if any of you know the author Clive Cussler, but there was a time when one of my students did a video presentation of these ships that went down in World War II. And he's a collector of that kind of information. So I sent him a copy, and I told him what my student had done and sent the paperwork, and he wrote a letter back. And so we had this back and forth for a while, conversation in letters. And one of the things that he told me was that when he writes a novel, it's like he's writing down a movie that's going through his head. So he's just recording it on paper. So I thought that was pretty cool. So clearly that's a clairvoyant type of thing. Who uses it? Surgeons probably use it. I think it would be great if they did have clairvoyance, because it would make it easier for them. Filmmakers, therapists, teachers, detectives, landscape architects, visual artists, designers, and dancers. Those are just some examples that I've come up with. And by the way, this is all information that's not in books. This is my experience. So if you have different experiences, I want to hear about those in the Q&A. These are my experience as well as my clients. And so it's just information I've gathered over the past few years. So a good way to practice your clairvoyance is writing, creating art, using oracle and tarot cards to connect the dots. So basically, you're going to see connections between things that other people can't see. It's just like, in the true crime shows where they have the lines between the pictures. That's the way your brain works if you're clairvoyant. You just connect everything. You don't need one of those boards. You just get it. You see the connections. I mean, you might use one of those boards to show other people, what you see inside your head. So an example, I'll give you an example of when I was giving a reading. Some kinds of visions that might come up are, you just get, it's so clear that it's almost like you can't believe somebody else isn't seeing it. So I was giving a reading, and I kept seeing the image of the spine with a steel rod in it. And I kind of brushed it aside because I wanted to see what happened in the reading. And finally, it just kept coming up. And so I said, I'm sorry, I just need to say, I'm seeing a spine with a steel rod. And she started laughing and she said, well, that's because I have a steel rod in my spine. And it was just, it was just so cool. And, that kind of thing happens when you're clairvoyant. You just get these random things. So the more we accept this about ourselves and feel confident sharing it, the more we have that deep connection between each other and pets and, nature and all of those things. Okay, I'm going to move on to clairaudience, which is clear hearing. And this is your inner ear. So just picture it in between your ears. So it's an inner ear, like a bat. You can hear nuances of vibrations that other people cannot hear. And it's just, it can be really disturbing at times. So like right now, the fans are on at our house a lot. And what happens is if there's a siren, that siren gets echoed in that fan. And even after the siren is gone, I still hear the siren because it's echoed in the fan. And this has been happening lately because the fans are on. So today, Matt says, he jumps up and he looks out and he's like, what's going on? And I said, what? I asked him what was going on because I didn't hear anything. And he said, do you hear that siren? And I said, no, it went by a few minutes ago. And he was experiencing the same thing. So, it just kind of validated, oh yeah, well that happens. I'm not crazy, We have these feelings like we're crazy when we have these, It just is like, is anybody else experiencing this? But that's because you have really sensitive ears when you activate your clairaudience. So you might hear guidance, you might hear music, you might hear words, names, or voices from the great beyond. That's your spirit guides, and that's your, it could be spirits in your building. You can hear that if you have clairaudience. How do you know if you can trust it? A big thing about this is if the voice is telling you to hurt yourself or hurt someone else, then that's not clairaudience. That's something where you need to see a psychologist and get some help for that, because these voices are going to tell you really good things and things that make you feel good or give you information about the situation you're in or the building you're in. They might even give you information about that. So if you have clairaudience as your dominant, you may say, I hear you, I hear that all the time, just naturally. So the people who use clairaudience are songwriters, composers, orchestra conductors, musicians, radio DJs, mediums, dancers, and sound effects people, writers, actors, poets, therapists. Those are just a few of the people that use this on a regular basis. You might know of a musician who just goes out and comes back with a full song, like leaves, let's just say that they're in a practice session and they go for a drive and they come back and they have a complete song ready to go. That's an example of claircognizance, which we're going to get to, as well as clairaudience. And Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, I know he used to keep a tape recorder by his bed and actually record songs when he was sleeping because he wouldn't remember in the morning when he woke up. Of course, who knows, there might have been some other factors involved with that. But he did keep a tape recorder by his bed and actually record some of those sounds that came out in his dreams. One of the things my guides like to do, I have an inner jukebox. So I have lyrics going all the time, pretty much in my head. And I think that's partially because I have ADHD. So that might be a separate thing. But my guides use lyrics as a joke sometimes. And they will send me messages in the lyrics. So even though I know the lyrics they send me are different. So sometimes they're just playing with me, and sometimes they actually are a message. So I do pay attention because I recognize, that's not in there. I know it's not. So they change the words around just to see if I'm paying attention. So you may hear ringing in your ears if you have clairaudience. I mean, I recommend getting your ears checked. I did get mine checked because I have ringing in my ears quite a bit. Not all the time, but electricity is extremely loud for people who have clairaudience. So you may hear ringing because electricity, you're in an area where there's more electricity. You may also be getting messages. So for example, sometimes when I get pitches in my ears, it'll be different pitches. If it's on the left, it's information for the reading that I'm giving or someone else. If it's on the right, it's for me. So I actually, once you start paying attention and actually write it down and get a pattern figured out, you'll recognize what's going on, and it's intentional. It's a message for you. So I do recommend getting your ears checked just in case. But it's pretty cool. Oh, and the reason I wanted to say about electricity, I don't know if any of you have ever been through, you might have been through an experience here, but I went through a hurricane called Hurricane Opal in Alabama. And for 5 days, there was no electricity anywhere. And I've never heard that kind of quiet in a city before. There's just no sound. And it was amazing. I mean, to think about how much electricity noise we're so used to, and you don't really realize it till there's no electricity anywhere, and no one's driving around, and there's, because there's trees and things down, and we've experienced things like that here. So you know what I'm talking about. When there's no electricity, you recognize how loud electricity is. So if you hear this, you're probably clairaudient. You also may say, I can't hear myself think, if things just feel overwhelming and you need some time alone. So you're basically giving yourself a message to take time off and get some quiet, because there's just too much going on in the ears. Okay, moving on to clairsentience. Not everybody, I don't know. I don't think all sentient people are empaths. I think there's different levels of clairsentience, and I don't have that information, but I do feel like there's different levels. So these are some examples, and I put, let's see, I did mention the bat, right? I put an octopus because I think an octopus is a perfect example of someone who has clairsentience. Octopus change colors based on the environment that they're in. They also really flow with the environment and the energy that they're in. And that is what a clairsentient does. You really flow with whatever the environment is. So have you ever known anybody who always stays the same pace and never changes? Like, let's say they're walking, they just always kind of keep the same pace? No? I had a friend who was Micronesian in high school, and she was on an island time, and she would just walk, just slow. It didn't matter, like she was hula dancing the whole time. Everywhere she went, she never changed her pace. That is not a clairsentient. Clairsentients are going to slow down and be on your pace. They're going to listen. They're going to really tap into you. They're going to look at you. They're going to feel your presence. And they're going to take the time to really just understand you, even if they don't totally understand themselves, because it's just so natural to understand other people because they're so in tune. And nature and animals, they also stop for that. So if you're clairsentient, you might have a full spectrum of emotional energy that you use every day. You know, it's up and down, and it's not going to stay straight. And that's okay. You're just flowing like an octopus. With whatever environment you're in, with whatever energy you're in, you're just flowing. And that's, you know, it's kind of perfect that they're in water too, because in tarot, we say water is emotions. So, you know, it's just think about the octopus if you're clairsentient. So who are clairsentients? Highly sensitive people, empaths, energy workers, caregivers of all kinds, basically anyone who is drawn to helping, healing, creative and service-oriented work. Empaths may also have a really great green thumb, really in tune with plants, and can really know what plants need, whether they need more soil or a different kind of soil or more water. They just tune into that. Also with the same with animals. Nurses, doctors, Reiki healers, massage therapists, artists, actors, writers, chefs, florists, and fashion stylists. So people who really just understand things in a complete picture.
SK, can you expand on feeling or being sensitive? Because some people might be emotionally immature and they're overly sensitive, but I take it you're talking about your senses are just heightened or
Yeah, it's
sensitive.
highly in tune, but if you know, that's a good point, because it may be that they haven't learned how to handle their emotions, you know, and you can be pulled in lots of different directions. So, you know, being aware is a big part of that. And so that's a good point. Also, I think clairsentients mimic accents really well. So if you like go to the South, you might suddenly develop a Southern accent, because you just, you know, you just flow with it. You pick up mannerisms without realizing it. So if you're with certain people, you may talk a certain way, and then you go over here and you're with these people and they talk a different way and you talk a different way. It's like the octopus. You're just changing your colors because you're just in that environment and you're just flowing with it. The key is to know who you are and be able to separate yourself from that. You know, so to really be clear, because I spent years not knowing who I was because I was so in everybody else's energy. And I really had to learn who I was. I'm still learning, you know. I mean, I think it's a lifetime thing. It's fun. I think it's awesome to discover yourself. But it's really emotionally important. And health-wise, it's important to know who you are versus who they are. I used to watch movies and cry when somebody was crying because I didn't want anybody to cry alone, even though it was just a movie, you know. That's just, and now I can say, that's theirs, not mine. But, you know, it just happened. I couldn't help it. Now I think I can separate a little bit better. Lots of times clairsentients feel pain that's not their own. So you might be around somebody who has, it doesn't matter if they have a ankle pain. Suddenly you have an ankle pain and it's intense and you don't know where it came from. You're picking up on their ankle pain. So when you recognize that, you can just say, oh, I'm having ankle pain just like you. And then sometimes it just goes away because it's just you recognizing. And you're sympathizing, you know, you're empathizing and sympathizing, you're feeling their energy. And, you know, sometimes you're just walking along and you get this pain and you're not even around anybody. So it's just important to recognize, you know, you're probably walking through a residual energy, and you can just call it out and say, oh, that hurts. Ooh, I don't like that. And you can shake it off and just move on, and most of the time it goes away. You know, so understanding these things is really important. Like I said earlier, you can cause lights to flicker if you're really emotionally charged, you can cause watches to stop. You can cause digital devices to freeze. You can cause batteries to drain. I have caused light bulbs to just literally explode. And I don't do that anymore, so I know I've improved. I'm a little more regulated now. I understand what my energy can do, but at the time, that was part of my healing. I needed to understand I was causing these things to happen, and I kind of got a kick out of it. I still do. Let's see. You feel music very deeply. You can't listen to a song and not be affected, whether you like it or not. You know, it might be, oh, I hate this song, you know, or it can be, oh, this song oh, it's so great, you know. You just feel songs so deeply. And I always thought everyone felt music the way I did until I dated a drummer. And I would go to all of his shows, and I would talk to people, you know, in the audience. I was in the audience, and they were like, yeah, I like it. It's okay. You know, and I'm like, you don't feel it? You know, I just didn't understand it. So that's definitely a clairsentient thing. Boundaries are really important for clairsentience, and learning to understand that you can return to sender with love. You know, you can return that energy, or just, I can feel it, but it's not mine. You need a lot of time alone to recharge if you're a clairsentient. A lot of time alone. Especially if you have to spend time in crowds, you need time alone because it just drains your energy. So what's happening actually when you're in a crowd or you're in a highly charged environment, you're constantly running energy through your energy field and then putting that energy back out. It's like this transference, and you're just naturally doing that all the time. So I'm not saying avoid crowds, because there's things you want to do. Like you came here tonight, and I really appreciate it. If you're clairsentient, thank you for coming. Because I know it's not always easy to be in a crowd, because you just feel everybody's energy. And so you may choose to not do as many crowd things. I used to go to huge concerts, and it was so hard for me. And I love the music, but it was just so hard. I would just crash after a concert, and I never understood, why am I so tired? I mean, yes, I stayed up till 3 a.m. or whatever, but I was loving being there, but I was just exhausted by the time it was over. So there's just a lot of understanding that I have started to embrace more. Okay, moving on to claircognizance. Psychics, mediums, energy healers, writers, spiritual teachers, inventors. This is a tricky one. If you have this one, it's clear knowing, and you get a gut feeling that usually starts from the crown and it drops down. So it's like you're just being sent this energy, this download of information, and it's hard to deal with sometimes because maybe you're not sure what to do with that information. And so journaling is really important. Calling on your guides to give you more information, because maybe it's not for you, maybe it's for someone else, or maybe it's for you to share, maybe it's for you to just sleep on, you know. So there's lots of different things you can do with that. But people who have claircognizance really need to understand that if it's a calm, clear voice, it's meant for you. If it's like a frantic, big energy that you get, sleep on it, write it down, you know, try to put it in your back pocket, just keep it to the side. Keep a journal, that really helps a lot. So clairgustance is one that you may or may not have heard of before. This one is phantom tastes with meaning, and you will taste it, but it's like at the back of your throat, or it's like a phantom taste. So, for example, psychics may they may be doing a reading, and you get this taste of blood. Like, so if I'm doing a reading of somebody who's died in a very tragic, violent death, sometimes you get the taste of blood. It's that kind of metallic taste. And you can also feel that when you go into an environment that has maybe something tragic happened in that building, you can actually taste a metallic taste. And it's strange, but it's really, you'll notice it when it happens. So if you're in, let's see, clairgustance is actually something that you need calm, clear, really clean environments to be in, because you may be overwhelmed on a regular basis. Paranormal investigators sometimes come across smells of sulfur or tastes of like bitterness. That's something that you may pick up on if you have clairgustance. Chefs, cookbook writers, one of the things that I can do, and you might be able to do this too, is you see a recipe or you watch a cooking show and you can literally taste it. It's just, or you read a recipe and you can literally taste it. Maybe you've never made it before, but you can taste all the ingredients and you can taste exactly how it's going to come out. And the other thing you can do is you can stand at the refrigerator and you can try on foods through your clairgustance. So you just don't know what you want to eat, and you just try them on and you just taste them, and you know which one is the right one for you at that moment. And when I was really sick, that was how I couldn't eat. And so I really had a hard time coming up with foods, because I wanted to eat, I needed to eat, but I really couldn't. I had trouble with my throat. And so I would stand at the refrigerator and I would try foods on until I could get something that tasted right. And then I would enjoy that food and be grateful for it. So that's something you might do if you have clairgustance. Okay, let's move on to clairalience. So clairalience or aliens are phantom smells, and they can be like, think of Toucan Sam. He always says, follow your nose, it always knows. Anyway, you get phantom smells. Like elephants also can smell miles and miles away with their trunks, and they actually use their trunks to communicate with each other. And so, as a person who uses clairalience, you might even notice when things smell off. Just something smells off and you can't figure out what it is. Sometimes you can, but you just smell the environment. You just know when something's not right. People who have clairalience, I highly recommend you do not work around toxic fumes. Things like rubber, gasoline, things like that can give you migraines really badly. And so any like really intense smells, because you're so sensitive, it would just be devastating to your health. I applied to a job one time at this onion place. I used to live in Colorado, where he's from, and there's lots of produce grown there, and it was this onion packing plant is what it was. And I got a migraine just sitting there, just in the office. It wasn't even in where the packing was going on, but I couldn't, it was just too much. So that's something that's really good to know if you have very sensitive clairalience. I think, spirit smells. You may smell spirits. In certain buildings, it like, let's just say there was a corner that I lived in, and that corner sometimes would just smell so strong of cigarettes, just like somebody was smoking, and nobody in the house smoked cigarettes. And it would just be so strong, like somebody was just sitting there smoking a cigarette. I've had spirits walk by me with this flowery smell, so you might have smelled that. Very often there will be that kind of thing. And the last one is clairtangency. Touch tells a story. So people who are really sensitive to touch, you might be a massage therapist, an artist who uses certain materials, who really like certain touches. You can get a whole story about the thing that you're touching or the person that you're touching. You know what their pain is, you know why they have that pain, you know information just by touching. And you can grab an old book and you just get a whole story about who owned that book, where that book has been, antiques, old clothes, old pictures. Oh, that's another thing with clairvoyance that some of you may have. When you look at a photograph, you get so much information just from looking at that. It's way more than just looking at a picture. You get the whole story around that photograph. What happened, what was going on in the background, all of that. So, that's another one with clairvoyance. I forgot to mention that one. But clairtangency is the same way, except you use touch. And you're really sensitive to materials, probably. You like different textures. You really hate certain textures, like you can't stand having it on your body. You're really just, careful about what you wear and what kinds of textures you have in your house. Like sometimes you may hate carpet or certain things because it just doesn't feel right. There's something wrong, something off, and you feel that. Let's see. Oh, and you can also feel spirits touch you. So if you watch paranormal investigators and they say, oh, I just got touched, or I just got punched, or, or your hairs stand up, that's clairtangency. Or you're sitting on a bed and you feel somebody sit down next to you and no one's there. Someone is there. You can't see them. It might be an animal. It might be one of your pets sitting down next to you that passed away. So I think that is good. And of course, I made this one up because I think it's important to have a sense of humor, sense of fun, and these are some of my favorite characters, and life is an experiment. Have fun with it. And I say it's your non-dominant elbow, so this one is my left elbow. So whatever your non-dominant elbow, it's your funny bone, Also your heart, because your heart area is where your true essence lives, your true soul, and that's your inner child. And so have fun, enjoy your life, and add as much humor as you possibly can. The fun that you want to have, because your idea of fun might not be what somebody else's is. So really getting clear about, a lot of times they'll say, that's my idea of fun. I mean, coming to a library is my idea of a good time, And lots of people are like, books, oh. And I'm like, what? What is wrong with this picture? So keeping lighthearted literally raises our spirits at any time. And of course, animals and comics and Snoopy and Calvin and Hobbes always do that for me. So I believe those are all the main ones. So let's just do a little exercise. This one is fairly short. So you've got your paper in front of you. Don't answer out loud. Which image are you drawn to first? There's no wrong answer. So go ahead and write that down. Or just... Oh, yes. If you haven't gotten a paper, raise your hands. Okay. You're welcome. There you go. You're welcome. Anybody else? Oh, sure. Okay.
I don't have a pen, so I'll use my phone.
Oh, okay, sure. You're welcome. So your first image you're drawn to. Now I want you, oh yes, of course. You're welcome. And did you get one? Okay, now close your eyes. Once you've picked your image, close your eyes and try to identify which is the first. It doesn't matter. There's no wrong answer. So just pick one. What is the first sense you used when you saw that picture? See if you can identify which Claire it is. It's not, I'm going to give you some examples and maybe that will help. So, for example, if you picked the water and it felt calm to you, that's the sense that you had, was that it felt calm. That's clairsentience. If you saw yourself floating in the middle of it, that's clairvoyance. If you picked the camera and your first sense was the smell of old film, that's clairalience. If you picked the lemon, and which is a zesty lemon, by the way, you felt the bumpy texture, that's clairtangency. So if that's your first sense that you went to, or if you tasted the tangy flavor, that's clairgustance. If you chose the watercolor on the bottom, and let's say you tasted sherbet ice cream, that's clairgustance. If you felt a watercolor brush in your hand, that's clairsentience. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so how to develop these senses safely? Go slow. Please be gentle with yourselves. You know, when you create more awareness in your life, it can wear you out a little bit more because you're just noticing more stuff, and there's a lot going on in the world. So just be gentle with yourself. Go slow. Keep a journal. You know, just jot down bullet points and start noticing patterns of what you're paying attention to and what you're aware of now. Practice and play, and if you can, you know, involve a child, involve a partner. Just play with it, have fun with it, share your insights, and, you know, see what they have to offer and see what comes out of it. And then do some grounding techniques. You know, the easiest grounding technique is go outside. Watch the birds, watch the trees sway, watch the sun move over a tree. Set up a bird feeder. You know, watch the wild antics of birds. That's one of my favorite things to do. It's like learning a new instrument, so set aside time to practice. You know, even just 10 minutes, just a little bit of time. I'm going to focus on seeing what my dominant sense is teaching me right now. And if you decide to work with me, I'll teach you some more that are tailored to you. And you can always look on YouTube for lots of grounding techniques. There's a whole bunch out there. So try some and pick one that works for you. So just a little recap. These are the main senses, and of course you have them on your paper. How do you use yours? I mean, I'm curious, I want to know more. But right now, go ahead and circle your dominant super sense and what you think your secondary is. What did you learn that you want to try? What surprised you? And remember this one has the elephant and Toucan Sam, clairalience, clairgustance is the taste. So some of these may be, I think the most popular one is clairaudience. I think most people are, clairsentience. actually. I think most people have clairsentience. That might be the most common, depending, everybody's at a different level, but I think that's a major one. Let's see. So I guess the next step is just to let yourself absorb what you've learned and really just knowing this about yourself, embrace it and celebrate it. Celebrate that you have these awesome senses and you're using them all the time, and now you can actually use them more as a tool if you know your dominant sense now. And I think that is, and you can go to my website, find out more. I have a lot of free resources there, like books that I recommend. One of them is Psychic Intelligence. I have a whole list of books under free resources, and also the cards that I like to use. So I have those on there too. So I guess we can open up the Q&A, and the first thing I want to know, I want to ask you some questions and actually get answers, if that's okay. I would like to see who chose clairaudience as their dominant. Okay, clairgustance. Anybody? Yeah?
No.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah? Clairgustance? Are you cooks? Do you like to cook or bake?
Oh, no, it's not Gustance, no.
Oh.
Wrong one, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm not going in order. You know what? I'm going to go in order because
That would be easier.
I'll go, let's raise your hand if you chose clairvoyance.
So is this just for number one?
Dominant, you're dominant, yeah. Oh, cool. Okay, we got quite a few. You're not alone, everybody. Clairaudience. Dominant. Okay. Clairsentience. Lots. Cool. Claircognizance. Oh, nice. Yeah? Yes? Oh, well, okay, you're going to have all of them. There's no doubt. You do have, that's the joke, is you have all of these senses. When at the beginning I say, how many do you have? Well, you have all of them. But the dominant one is what I'm talking about. Because the dominant one's the one you lean on the most. All of these are interwoven throughout your life. There's no doubt about it. You're using all of them all the time. But the dominant one is the one that really affects your health the most, affects your viewpoint, and is the lens that you kind of look through, that you use on a regular basis. So that's the whole point. Where was I? Clairgustance? Anybody have that as your dominant? How about clairalience? Sense of smell. Clairtangency. Okay. Nice. Cool. Okay. So that was my big question. If you have your slips that you want to fill out, finish filling them out, and then put them in the bowl, we'll do the drawing. But while we're doing that, you can ask your questions now. If you have questions for
Could
me.
you maybe pass the bowl around, or if you
Oh.
want us all to walk up there?
Oh, I guess we could pass it around. Do you want to be in charge of that? Yeah, so fold it up so that it's sort of in drawing form. And while you're doing that, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'll do my best anyway.
Curious, you
Yeah.
said that you went to the other side,
Yeah.
and then you said it was hard coming back. Do you remember what that was about, what that was like when
Oh, yeah.
it was hard to come back? Or?
Well, it wasn't so hard to come back from the near-death experience, but it was hard to embrace the life that I came back to, if that makes sense.
the life you wanted to leave from
Yeah.
your cult, from your family. Ah.
Yeah, and also I was just really, really sick, and I just didn't think I didn't know how I could continue.
Were you sick from your cold from your family?
From my burnout, from being just completely burned out. So I'm living proof that you can survive burnout, but I don't recommend it. It's, yeah.
Thank you.
Can you explain what burnout is? Because from what I know, what I think it means spiritually, but I don't know if it means something different.
Well, burnout means that, you could be on the verge of burnout when it can lead you into depression, it can lead you into you're just completely overwhelmed. But in my case, my whole body was burned out. So, the cosmic joke is that we're this giant awareness, consciousness, and we're stuffed into this little body on this planet that's like holding us down, So I think that's the joke on us, is we have to learn how to live in this body. And I did not know how to live in this body.
So you mean that you were just so overwhelmed by everything spiritually that it drained you?
I think that I always lived in my spiritual and mental self, like out of my body. I didn't know how to live in my body. I didn't know how to ground myself. I didn't know how to be present, I guess, is, that's how we put it now, but that's kind of a catchphrase. I was always flying around.
So what you're saying is that eventually your body couldn't.
My body quit.
do it.
My body quit is what happened.
Basically,
Yeah, I was avoiding so much pain. I had so much pain in my body. And I'd had it for so many years. And I didn't know how to, I tried everything. I went to the doctors and they always said, "Oh, you're so healthy." Because I worked hard on my health, like I did all the healthy things. I drank my water and I ate my foods and I exercised and I did all that stuff. But my mental health and my spiritual health were really not.
And it ended in
Yeah, and so then when I was forced to pay attention to the pain, my body just quit. My body absolutely quit. I could not use it anymore. So that's complete burnout. I don't think most people get to that point, or hopefully they figure it out. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't have any of that information to understand what was going on.
And when you say you left, you mean you died and
Yes.
then you were brought back?
I just came back. It's kind of a, everybody has a different near-death experience. I've studied a whole bunch, but some of them have the one I had, where I was falling back into this nothingness. And now I understand the void. I don't think I would be so scared now if that happened again, but at the time I had no context for what that was. And sometimes they call it an ego death, sometimes all kinds of different things, vortex, void. But that's one form of an NDE. And you're just in this darkness and you can't see anything or feel anything. But what was great about it was I didn't have any pain. And it was nice. It was so nice to not have any pain, because I had so much pain. And so, yeah, but it was scary in the sense that I was falling. And, it's like, when you fall asleep and you're falling and then you jerk awake. Well, I didn't jerk awake. I just kept falling. And then I was just in this darkness. And I didn't have any context, and I didn't have anybody I could talk to about it at the time. And so what happened was I was listening to NPR about, 4 days later. And this shaman from Bolivia was talking about having the exact same experience at age 9. And he described, and he was so articulate, that he described it exactly as I had experienced it. And then I could just kind of breathe, like, oh, that's what that was. And even though I knew I was dying, so I was prepared for the fact that I was dying, but I really wasn't prepared to go on. When you kind of come to that peace and you just let go, then when you come back, it's like, okay, so now I have to live with all this pain still, and I have to figure out this whole new life. It's a lot. And it was really hard for a while. Yes?
Yeah, so I'm hearing about, your experience of your ego death.
I don't know.
Well, or
That's what
or
some people
something.
call it. I don't know that I
It
would call it.
reminded me of the concept also, I wonder what your thoughts are on walk-ins. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I have. The Dolores Cannon stuff, I think there's a lot of truth to that, but I don't, and I've met some walk-ins or people who say that they're walk-ins. Why not? I don't know. I mean, I think it's possible.
What is it?
So it's where you get to a point in your life where you just cannot go any further, and it's as if your soul leaves because it could not handle this anymore, and another soul comes in and takes over, has your memories of what occurred in your life, but has almost like a little bit of an emotional distance to those things that were so painful, and is able to then move forward in the direction that's right for that person.
Yeah, I think
that
that's
was
a
my
pretty
understanding.
good. That's a pretty good explanation.
Yeah.
I've met a couple of people who have had it, and the way they told me was they recognize that they're completely different than the other person that they walked into. So it's really hard. I can't imagine having to deal with this other person's stuff and be a new soul living in this.
diagnosed as schizophrenia?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so because it's.
Sounds kind of fun if they're not supposed
It's like
to.
a big shift in their personality and how they do things, but it's very competent, very
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, consistent.
Yeah, it's
as
like
well.
it's almost like that idea of claircognizance. Like they just arrive, everything is all put together, and they're a full person, but a different person. So it could be. I mean, I think some people might call it that, but I don't think it is. I really don't. Yeah, I think it's something separate.
So
Yeah.
what usually comes? How does it usually, your nervous breakdown, let's say, just in the old days, everything,
Yeah.
every people that had this situation, oh my God, I'm done, right? It was
Yeah.
always called a nervous breakdown.
Right. Yeah.
So if they did switch, what was the switch? Was it always for the positive or just they're back?
I-
What would it be
I don't know.
as a walk-in?
I mean, Brent,
Or does anybody-
have
or
you
did
do you
anybody
know
really
somebody
think?
who's
Yeah.
experienced it? What would you say?
Well, in my experience, I would not put the schizophrenia spectrum piece there, like
Yeah, I don't
obviously
think
put
so.
a trauma thing there, but that's extra stimuli. But what I hear you saying, and I've definitely been really close to someone that had 3 entities in one body. I've known multiple people who have multiples, but usually there's like a break in the experience, like where something is too much of a burden for like the psyche or something on a spiritual level, right? And like, yeah, another enters scene, and then they're like, oh, hi, and then I've literally watched the interface, and there's a clear, I know how it sounds, and no one wants to like digest that like conversation.
So does it switch from you to her?
No,
And
no.
there's no middle ground, or, is it a complete change? All 3 of them? All three of the
them are
entities, or are they all,
different
here.
entities in the same body.
right, I understand that,
Yeah.
but my question is it you, and then the next entity is her? Or are they together?
I can,
Like Sybil. Okay, let's take that was 6. But everything was you. And then, I'm not saying that it doesn't, because I know. I left this planet for 4 minutes and 10 seconds. And when I came back, everything was, whoa, everything was fresh. I woke up after being in coma for 3.5 weeks. And I had a reoccurring dream 3 times, and the 3rd dream, I made it to the sledge and got on an eagle's back, and when we went down, I woke up. The other 2 times, I made it to the ledge and he took off. The first time, I didn't even get to the ledge and I could see him stepping out and it was all the same recurrent and taking off. But when I woke up, it was like, wow, it's a beautiful day. What day is it? This first thing I asked the nurse, right? And she says, well, it's May 20th. I go, oh, tomorrow's my birthday, as if I never left. But the smell, the colors, just, you know, were so brilliant. And I know people that, like you were saying, there's more than one in there. So I've never met one, especially when I came back, these certain people that I knew, when I came back, all they wanted to do was touch my elbow. And and they would walk up to me and it was like, and they would cup my elbow. And I just kind of look at them and I'd smile because I've known these people, right? Now, they had 2 people, 2 entities. One was always, hey, like they were always drunk, a happy drunk. And then the other one was like it was like they couldn't talk. And that's why I'm asking you, that the walk-in, are they separate or do they know who each other is?
Yeah, I know from my experience, it's separate from the walk-in. I've known someone who has gone unconscious, they came back, and a new soul was aware they're in that body. And they're very psychically in tune. And then the person that I've known who later, like I got to meet
Did I get everybody's?
the youngest entity in them would only show up under very certain circumstances, and I was like, whoa.
And they would talk different or
well,
the
they
same
were all
voice,
friends.
obviously?
Yeah, if I can explain really quick. I think everyone probably has someone in their life, but like one of those entities was like a 7-year-old who still needed certain kinds of nurturement and was still lost and very
because
afraid.
being 7 years
And
old.
then the other 2 were more similar in age and actually developed a very close friendship and would consult each other in different projects. Like one was like really big into wrenching and mechanics, but the other was like the spiritual shaman. But they did have ability to like have a conversation, then there was consent, and then the other one would come forward and like.
So they would change.
Sometimes
they
it
would
was
step out
consensual,
and
sometimes I
that's
don't think
pretty
it
cool.
was. Sometimes there was exhaustion or some other
Right,
needing to take a break.
right.
But I do think they're different. So.
But I think a walk-in usually happens, I mean, yes, there's obviously when the body can't do it, but maybe it just reaches a point where a soul won't be able to grow and continue to grow with all the terrible things that are going on. So then a new soul is able to take and can potentially continue to grow, and that soul moves on to a place where it can grow and develop
And complete
continue
the
its
mission
process.
that was originally laid out for the
Yes.
first.
And I have a
It's about the
comment
mission.
on the and how like schizophrenia spectrum stuff works in on this. Like I serve folks, and again, people who might be at the grocery store with you. They don't necessarily look any different, but I feel like there's a lot of existing and liminal space there. There's lots of reasons they're in these different it's like very real to me that they're picking up on, like some people would call it like channels or bits of the matrix, but they're in multiple times in this space, like
Yeah.
and lots of internal stimuli that isn't going to be rationalized very well, drive someone mad.
Yeah.
But I think they're experiencing many more places than just this one.
That's good.
Yeah, which is also like
Explain it
something broke, like shattering a glass, happened in their life.
Anybody have any other questions?
What is the? So obviously you've mentioned how you've met people who are walk-ins or are going through other things. What is how many different creatures or people with variations or things that they can do have you met? Like, how many are there?
Gosh, unlimited. I mean, I think it's fascinating because when I get to meet people's spirit guides, they're so diverse. I mean, I've met giant praying mantises, wolf-like creatures that walk on hind legs. Our spirit teams, I call it a spirit team because it's your higher self as well as, guardians. There's a wide range, but it's literally everybody has a team. And some of these entities you may not have ever met, but they were assigned to you when you were born, or they come from your lineage, and you may not know them, but I get to meet them when we have a reading sometimes. And I would never have imagined all of these. They present themselves, and some of them have such great sense of humor. They're hilarious, and they're constantly, wanting you to play more and have more fun, and they want to have fun with you, and some of them are really serious, and they're healers, and they help you, but they're
Have you ever met a starseed?
yes, there's lots of starseeds, and I think that Dolores Cannon is really right about the 3 waves of volunteers. I think if you know about the 3 waves of volunteers,
Yeah, I read that.
I think that's yes. Question.
Let me know if this is an unfair question, but looking out into this audience, what do you see?
I see people who are curious and who want to know themselves deeper and have more meaningful connections, and that's what attracted you here.
See, for
That's
instance,
what I see.
if there was someone in the crowd who, since you can see things and other people can as well, could you see if there was somebody in the crowd who was able to do certain things or stuff like that?
I think I get overwhelmed so easily. I try not to, because to me that's like spying almost. Ethically, I don't want to just explore someone. I don't feel that's right, and I also don't think it's right to do third-party type things. Where people are saying, "Can you tell me what he's thinking of me?"
Oh yeah.
I'm like, no, I can't. I can't do it. No, I mean, I could, but I don't want to. So I just shut those things off. And you have a switch. You can, you can work on developing your switch, whatever that is, to turn it off, because otherwise I would just be so overwhelmed. But sometimes I can't help it. Like, I was swimming one day, and the lifeguard, I was going by the lifeguard, back and forth, and her cousin wanted to come through and give her this message. And I was like, but I'm swimming. I don't know her, and But I went ahead and told her, and she thanked me, and she went home and told her mom, and her mom, you're welcome. Oh, okay. So anyway, sometimes that happens, but I really try not to overly tap in, because I would get so overwhelmed. I would get so tired. I am already tired as it is. I just get, I have to deal with fatigue on a regular basis. And so I recognize where my limits are, and so I don't. That's a very long answer. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Other questions?
I also know that before I came in here, set a bubble here of, let's do 5, let's do love.
Nice.
And anybody else that's not for here.
Thank you.
And I know that people from this organization here will sometimes do that as well.
That's really cool.
Or when we had classes, we set
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really healthy thing to do.
Pop up when you
Right.
have these kind of classes.
Yeah,
We
that's
want to feel
beautiful.
safe.
Thank you, Joy. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Billy, will you do the honors and choose the winner?
Sure.
The winners?
I'm still finishing
Oh,
mine.
okay. We'll let you finish.
I'm almost done.
You've got to be part of it. And thank you all for being here, and thank you RVML for hosting me. Thank you so much. I loved it.